Okay, so if you guys watched part one, it was just a very quick kind of interface tutorial. Just it's really quick. It's nothing that you guys really need to go over, but I just wanted you guys to go over it I want to go over it just because I want to treat this tutorial as one kind of full circle tutorial, make sure everyone understands everything. So we're actually going to go over a little bit of the scripting today, and actually scripting, we're going to script something. We're going to dive right into it, but I'm going to go very slowly and make sure I explain every single node that I put down. If you guys have any doubts or just want to see something, just pause the video anytime, and I will continue with it. So we're going to today make the Cayan Tower, just the form of it. So this is the Cayan Tower. So all it is just this twist articulation happening right here. So as you can see, it starts off here and then it twists literally 90 degrees. So we're just going to make that. Now this is actually very simple. So we're going to do that. I'll just close out of this. We don't need that anymore. So you're like, how are we going to even start? So if we look back at I already closed it, but if we look at the Cayan Tower, we notice that it was a square. So we can just type in, we know that a square is a polygon. So we're going to type in polygon, and voila, we have a polygon. And I like to keep it in perspective just to see things like this. So right now it asks for a plane. The plane is defaulted at, as you can see, it says one locally defined value. It's defaulted at XY. But I like, if I give the script to other people, I want people to understand it. So for the completeness of this tutorial, I will fill in the plane. So I'm just going to say XY, even though it already says it. I'll plug that in. So literally I just double clicked and did XY. And you can see I just popped up with that node. Next, it asks for radius, so basically the distance from the center to the tip. I'm going to say 4 for right now. This could be any number. I'm just going to put 4 down. And now it asks for segments. Segments is basically the number of sides. So right now is a segment is 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it has 6 sides. So I want a square. So I'm going to pick 4. Technically I could have used this, but just for clarity, I'm going to use 2 sliders. Let me try to align this up. Okay, so how I got these numbers, before I go on any further, how I got these number sliders. Grasshopper is defined by these number sliders, and they dictate kind of inputs. So how I got a number slider, it was, you can either type in number slider. Once you double click on the screen and type in number slider, you can click that, and then it has a number slider. You can kind of slide it around. Or what you can do is, if you know the number that you want, so I knew my number was 4 for segments, you could just type in 4 and it'll automatically make a slider for you. So even after you type in 4, you can still edit it. So I want 5, 6, or 7. Now you can do decimals like you saw before. To edit a number slider, you just double click it. So you have this. So it has floating point numbers, even and odd numbers, and right now we're at integers, which is just whole numbers, but can be negative as well. So floating point numbers, and that will give you a decimal place. So it's a little more accurate. So yeah, I'll delete that. So yeah, so right now we have our origin, XY plane, and a polygon, and our number sliders. So right now we're on track. But you can see this square that I made is 45 degrees. It's not really correct. As you can see, when we pull up the Cayan Tower, it was 90 degrees. It was completely orthogonal, not rotated already. So I'm going to actually rotate this back. So right now we can see it's literally exactly at a 45-degree angle. So what we would do is literally just type in rotate, and we're going to pick this one, the one that's on a plane. So it's asking for a geometry, an angle, and a plane. So the plane's already at the XY, so I don't have to do anything with that. But of course, for the sake of this, I'm just going to plug this into the plane. Polygon is asking for rotation, so I'm going to, this is asking for the geometry, and right now it's not rotating anything. It's rotating nothing, and right now it's going to ask for an angle. So the angle is in radians, as you can see. So I'm going to do, so to convert it from radians to degrees, you just type in radians, and this is a radians to degree converter. And there we go. Right now it's just orange. Don't worry about that because we literally have nothing degrees. There's no like, see it's an empty parameter, so it's not, so literally it's reading nothing instead of 0, because 0 and nothing are different in Grasshopper. So I'm going to type in 45 and plug that in. And right now, as you can see, this highlighted area is our square. Now as you can see, there's 2 of them, and you're like really confused. It looks like it did nothing. But when you click on it, it shows a preview. And when you click on this one, it also shows a preview. So when you click on these nodes, it shows the preview. So it previews this plane, it previews this polygon, and it previews this rotate. So it's getting a little confusing. So what you can do is you can actually turn off some of the previews on these, because you can see this one's still showing. It's like, it's red though when you right here, so it's red. So what you can do is actually, I'm going to highlight both of these. Just click this, hold shift, and click this. What you want to do, you can either right click and do preview off, or what I like to do is click both of these, hit your scroll bar, like click it, and then you come up with this tool, and I like to click the blindfold guy, which is just disable preview. And now it just leaves this kind of articulation that we want. It's kind of detail of the square that we want. All we did was rotate that 45 degrees, so we're good. Now we have the square, and now we have the base done, which is perfect. So what we're going to do now is do something called a series. So we're going to define the kind of spine of the twist, in a sense. Not really the center of it, but more of just kind of the layering, like the layering of the twist. So I explain that, and it's a lot easier when I show you. So I'm going to do this just in the preview, just to make sure. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a move. So technically we want to move this up an X amount of direction, not X, we're going to move it any distance, but in the Z direction. So we're going to move. Once we move it, it's asked for the geometry and the motion. The motion is just a defined way to move it. So which direction, it's basically saying what geometry am I moving and what direction am I moving it in. So I'm like, okay, I know I want to move this resultant geometry. And remember, in the very quick tutorial I had, part 1, the left hand side is the input and the right hand side is the output. So knowing that, this is the output, so it's the rotate geometry. You can think of this part, this left part, not left part, sorry, this right part as always the finalized geometry, the kind of resultant, if you want to think about it that way. That's how I always think about it. The right side is always the resultant. So I know it asks for the geometry, and it's going to move it. Right now it is moving it in the Z direction already, but it's already locally defined at the Z axis. So just to clarify it, I'm going to do Z, plug this in here. Once I plug that in, I'm going to now establish a number slider. So I want to move this. Basically, it's saying I want to move this in the Z direction 10 units. Okay, so now we have it moved there. So that's part is done. You can see the script's not super crazy, so we're good. But once if I want to create more than one in between these, like more than just I don't want to just move it. I want to create a series of them. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to disconnect the slider first because we're going to still use this. And we're actually going to do a new component that's not normal, or the ones that we went over already. And we're going to do a series. This component will be used a ton. It's like one of the most useful commands. So it's asking for a start. The start is locally defined at 0, 0, which is what we want. It's asking for a step, which is just the amount of distance, and count is just the amount that you want. So I'm going to plug this in real quick. And as you can see, it already did a bunch of them, but they're already defaulted at 1. So it's basically saying 1 inch in between everything and 10. So I'm going to plug in a 10, but I'm going to do 2. 2 for the steps. So it's going to be pretty tall, or taller, because of the amount of distance in between each square. Okay. So now we have that. All it is basically saying, let me go over this one more time, is we're going to move in the z direction with a series of 10 of them every 2 inches, since my model is in inches. So we did that. Okay, just making sure we're good. I don't want to mess up anything with you guys just because we're teaching. So now now that I have this kind of volume, I just want to start to rotate them all. So it's like, so now we're thinking, how are we going to rotate these? Well, we know all a twist is just a rotation. So we'll just do a rotate command. Pretty easy. Now it's asking for the geometry. Sorry, wrong one. It's asking for the geometry, the angle, and the plane. So we're going to plug in the geometry in here. And right now it's just going to not do anything because it's just saying I'm going to rotate this. We're asking for the plane. The plane is the XY plane. So what we can do actually is go all the way back to this XY and plug it into here. Then it's asking for angle, and as we know from the last one, we need to change this from radians to degrees. So we're going to plug this in here, and it turned orange again because it's literally there's no input. So we're actually going to do another one. Instead of series, we're going to do a range. A range will tell me, will help us establish how many rotations we want to do. So we're going to do a range. And now as you can see, it has a domain and steps. So I'm going to plug this in here. And now it's asking for a domain. So what we need to do is actually construct a domain. So this construct domain will tell us the amount of rotation we want as well. The steps here tells us how many squares are we rotating. And the domain is saying how much rotation do we want from one point to another. So what we would do is we would just do a construct domain. This one that says 0 and 1, not these two, just this one. Plug this in here. And right now, there is no rotation happening because I haven't put any degrees in. So let's say I want to start at 0. So basically saying a start and an end. So basically what I want to say is, what this is saying is the start is the bottom and the end is the top. So the end, I know I want it to be 90 degrees. So I'm going to plug the 0 and it's already at 0, but I want to plug it in. And then I'll say 90. Because we already converted it, remember, to degrees to radians. So all you need to do is plug this in. As you can see, it's already making this kind of weird shape. But you can see, even if we turn this off, remember, we can just turn these two off. So just do the scroll bar, click that. It's making like extra ones on the top, which is really weird. We don't want that. So what we're going to do is look at this, and we know that we have 10 squares, correct? Because in this series we put 10 here. So we're like, okay, we have 10 squares. How much spacing is in between two squares? Not the amount of, not 2 inches. We're not talking about how much distance, sorry. We're talking about how many spaces are actually there. So if there are 10 squares, there's always going to be minus 1 of that. So 10 minus 1 is 9. So what I'm saying is there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 spacings. So right now it's reading 10 spacings. So that's why it's making this extra kind of rotation here at the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually do a subtraction command. And Grasshopper has a bunch of mathematical commands. You can just look at operators, and as addition, powers, all these other ones. So, but for this one we're going to use subtraction. So now we know that it's always 10 minus 1. So we just plug in 10. And then we're going to plug in 1. So A and B is basically saying what minus what. And this will give me the result. And if we pull up a panel, by the way, the panels are your best friends. A panel literally tells you everything about a command, about a node. It tells you everything on what's going on. So a panel is super useful. So I'm going to put a panel here. Let me show you guys real quick. So it literally says 10 minus 1. is 9. This is what the result is, and it will always spit that out. So I'm going to plug this in. As you can see, the rotation looks pretty normal. Let's see, that kind of extra one went away, and now we have this. Cool, but it's still line work. You're saying it's like it's not solid, right? It doesn't make any sense. So what we're going to do is do a loft to make all these kind of solid, instead of just like right now it's just line work, which means nothing. So we're going to do a loft. So loft, and then enter. So it's saying what curves do we want to loft and what options, which we don't need to worry about. So I'm just going to plug in the geometry into this because my geometry is curves. Plug that in and I get a loft. Perfect. But the problem is, as you can see, I get the walls, but I don't get the actual, like, the tops of it. It's still like a hole. It's not really a solid, which is what I want. So right now they're reading as surfaces, so what you want to do is do a cap. So just type in cap holes, and it'll come up with this one right here. Not this one, just do this one. And plug this in. And that's it. So loft and rotate. So I'll go over everything one more time just to make sure. So as you can see, this is the geometry we have, and it's completely capped. As you can see, let me just go back here real quick one more time before we go over everything. So usually I like to turn off a lot of this stuff until the very end. So like here, sometimes it's crucial to keep some stuff on, but so that's the geometry. So I usually keep this one on just to make sure. Oopsie. So here is a so all we did was we established we wanted the polygon on the XY plane at a radius of 4 and a sides of 4. And remember, it came out at a 45-degree rotation already, so what we did was we recorrected that rotation at 45 degrees. Let me actually turn everything off real quick. And I'm going to turn these on one at a time. So we established a plane at the XY plane, and with a polygon with a radius of 4 and a number of sides of 4. And then after that, we rotated that polygon 45 degrees right here, like it says, in order to make it flat, as you can see. I just did that on top view just to make it a little easier. Where's pan at? I'm just too lazy to click. So after we did that, we did a move in the Z direction with a series component in order to get the kind of skeletal condition of the twist. So we have this. Once we did that, we did a rotation. So basically we rotate each piece until it reached 90 degrees on the top. So it made one full rotation of 90. So basically once we had our geometry right here, we did a rotation of each one into 90 degrees. Cool. And as you can see, it's a bunch of stuff with using a range and a construct domain. It's from 0 to 90. So let's say I didn't want 0 to 90. Once I wanted 0 to 45, I could just double click my number slider and actually type in, you could slide it around, or you could do 45. Check, okay. Now it's only doing the 45. After that, we lofted those curves, and it still had a hole in it, so we just decided to, after that, cap it, as you can see. So yeah, I will leave this script in the description below. I will leave this so you guys can download it and look at it. It's a very, very simple script, actually. It's not super long. I hope I didn't make it too confusing. I will do another tutorial, another part on this type of articulation, not just the solid. I will start to vary this by maybe poking a hole in this and actually start to detail it. For right now, I just wanted to get kind of into the basics of this and make sure you guys kind of understand the condition of it. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for this. Thank you guys for watching, and hope you guys have a great day.